Let's take a look at this lap. It's been a while. Right. We'll come to the last corner when we get there. So turn 1. Just after the white line on the track, just before the 2 marker. 2 mark, white line, exit line. So I've lifted, and then I'm just about to get on the brakes here. And then it's kind of a double apex. So with this setup, I did try 2 different sets of gearing. With this setup, I was using 3rd. So early apex, let the car wash out. And then ideally a little closer than I was to this 2nd apex here. But as long as you can pick the throttle up quite early, not have to lift again, you're okay. So I was pretty much on the limit there. On the outside, I could have obviously got my line a little bit better and picked the throttle up a tiny bit sooner. So that's the line basically. Then coming down into Montreal, again braking on the 2 marker. A little bit confusing because there's another marker telling you what kind of corner it is, which is super useful. So it looks like this is the 3 marker, but it's actually the 2. Braking, I'm using 2nd gear here with my setup, and then you want to, instead of like the traditional line of staying wide, clipping the apex, and then getting back onto the throttle really early, you just want to hug the inside really tightly and over slow the car. And sort of stay on this curb as best you can, because obviously we're going left, and you want to be, and this is onto the straight, so you want to carry as much speed as you can through this left. And this is probably the most difficult part of the track, because you're gonna want to be full throttle through here, but to do that, you need to be really precise, because a little bit of grass on the left will drag the car to the left, and a little bit of grass on the right will do the same on the exit, and it's very easy to end your race all by yourself here. You see, I'm not quite full throttle, just to help the car turn a little bit, because the more throttle you have, the more straight it wants to go. So all the curb and all the curb, and if you really want to be back on the track before this grass, because it will just drag you. Luckily, this part of the 300 layout is right here, so if you do get onto this grass, it will you've got a little chance to save yourself before you hit this wall. So then coming down into Brundle, again I think it's the 2 marker. There's a little bit of tarmac. Yeah, so here's the tarmac. It's kind of like a get ready. Then your 2 marker again. If you're doing this right, you should feel the back of the car floating as you're turning in here. I think you actually will see me turn right slightly. Just the rear of the car is almost weightless, or I guess you're balancing the car on the front axle. So then hit this apex, and again, you would normally then pick up the throttle and wash out, but because we're going right immediately, we're going to stay left here. The car all the way through this section feels like you're balancing it. It's like steering inputs and brake pressure controlling how straight the car is. So if you're getting out of shape, you need to brake less. And it's also a good idea to get your shift done once you've finished turning left, because you're coming through here, and then so I'm leaving that second gear shift until I've finished turning left. So steering wheel will be straight, then shift, and it's a very small window, but I found that was the best way to stop myself losing the rear, because if you lose the rear, it's usually to the rear goes right, you're going left, and if you hit the brakes, you're just going to go straight on. So it's that's a tricky little complex. This is quite a hard apex to hit. Obviously, you don't want to hit the sausage curb because you'll probably get damage, and you'll launch yourself up in the air and you'll be in the grass on the left. So then pick up the throttle as soon as you can, using all the exit here into the bomb hole. Now, the compression on the apex actually helps you turn the car, so you go into it faster than you think, and then as you feel the car dip into the compression, pick the throttle back up. You can actually use a little bit of the grass on the inside if you go more than a wheel onto the grass here. It'll help you turn, but depending on your set, you may not need that extra rotation. Here, just briefly talk about the other setup that I was trying. One, I was using 3 gears, and this one 4 gears, so second through to fifth, and the other set was second through to fourth. And here I had a longer third gear, and it meant I didn't need to shift up to fourth. There was other disadvantages around the lap, but if you're struggling missing shifts, particularly if you're new, I would recommend trying a 3 gear setup, because not having to make the shift and the shift back down, because basically you're going to come out of that corner, go up to fourth, and then immediately into Coram and go back down to third. So you can save yourself 2 potential missed shifts by just running a different gearing. So that's definitely something to think about. So then into Coram, again, it's such a long corner that you kind of want to go into it too fast and use the brake. You'll get better rotation out of the car using the brake rather than sort of holding like 10% throttle and steering. You see there in the early part of the corner, it's such a long corner you can't hold the brake all the way because you'll be going too slow. But you see, instead of using the throttle 10%, I'm just trailing the brake gently. And then I have to pick up the throttle here. Then these markers are really useful, so you'll naturally drift away from the sort of inside edge of the track, but you want to be back over to the inside by the third marker or just after it, and then braking on the second marker. I'm actually, see I'm picking up the brake back here, but I'm not really pressing it that hard, which is just to let the car know that I'm about to brake, kind of thing. It sounds stupid, but I'm like transferring the weight slowly, so because we're still turning, you don't want to jam the brake on and lose the rear. So it's kind of like I'm progressively, excuse me, I'm progressively applying the brake, which normally you would go straight to threshold. But yeah, anyway. And then the final turn is really easy to turn in too early. So in VR at least, I kind of turn in, actually on this lap I turn in too soon. You want to turn in when this kind of, the Murray's board starts to go out of your vision. So you see, I actually turn in too early and then straighten up again. Just a tiny little correction there. again, you don't want to hit that curb, and you can use all of this, whatever that is, like concrete, grass, but not the gravel. So that's a lap of Snetterton. Yeah, so the main things to focus on are the hairpin transition into the back straight and Brundle, and the turn after that, whatever that's called, turn 5. Which they're both the same kind of situation, where you're setting the car up for the next turn after the one you're in, so don't use a traditional line. Anyway, hopefully this guide is of some help to you guys.